All right. Welcome back to Third Man In. I'm Zack Phillips. Tonight, breaking down game number 10 of the Toronto Maple Leafs regular season. Thank you all to everyone who waited here. I told you I would be here. It was going to take a long time. I apologize, but you waited, and this chat has been absolutely buzzing the entire time that I was missing. So we'll get through the chat, get through my thoughts on tonight's game, some of the most important takeaways, but I see some fighting going on in the chat. If you do have thoughts on tonight's game, you want to call in, you want to give your opinion, you want to tell me what you think, how you feel about this Leafs team, where it's at, send me a message on Discord there. I will try to get to people and we'll send out some links if you do want to call in. But while you're here right now, do appreciate everyone who waited, do appreciate everyone who came in. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, turn on notifications here on the channel. I do appreciate everyone who waited, but I mean, yeah, let's get into tonight's game. So Leafs game 10 of the regular season, losing this one to the Boston Bruins in a shootout 3-2. And there are a lot of thoughts. I could get on to a ton of different things that went on in this game in regards to certain players' defensive play, John Klingberg specifically there, Brad Marchand, lack of response, all this stuff. This is going to be one of those heated ones for me because I saw a lot of comments and I see people going back and forth, jumping around in terms of, oh, this team can't do anything. And then it's swinging all the way from regards to miss the playoffs to win the Stanley Cup, blah, blah, blah. And there's no in between. Here's the reality of the team right now, the way I see it, the way that it's built. Will this team, as it's built right now, win the Stanley Cup? No. Almost 0% chance. This team, the way that it is constructed right now, the lack of backbone that they have, the way that they play, and with the guy that's behind the bench, this team cannot and will not win the Stanley Cup. Is this team going to miss the playoffs the way that they're constructed right now? No. The way that they're constructed, the players that they have on this roster, the talent that they have on this roster, the ability to be above average is good enough to make playoffs and get into the playoffs. There will be changes that come to this team throughout the course of the next couple of months leading up to the trade deadline and at the trade deadline. So 6 1/3. When I say almost zero, I'm talking about the team the way it is right this very second. The team it is right now. If you look at the roster, you look at the paper, the way it is, this team cannot and will not win the Stanley Cup as it is right now. I do not think this is a team that's going to miss the playoffs. I think that is ridiculous. This team needs tinkering. This team needs fixing. It is not a final project. No team that has won the Stanley Cup from day one of the regular season has finished and gone on to win the Stanley Cup over the last at least 20 years and being a complete final project, whether that's from calling up players, cutting guys, trading guys, whatever it is, finding different mixes and matches into the lineup. This is not the final product, is essentially what I'm saying. This team struggles defensively. I don't think Brad Treliving is done here or satisfied with the way that they are built on the defensive side of things. The reality is that they give up too many chances. Samsonov, as it is right now, not playing well enough, not strong enough, and they've just got no balls. We heard Treliving talk about Snot, adding Snot into this roster. Brad Marchand is a slimy scumbag piece of shit. The play that he made on Timothy Liljegren in the corner is fucking ridiculous. For there to be no penalty on the play and no response from the Toronto Maple Leafs is just absurd all the way around. You bring in players on your team who have a set of balls so that when the idiots who wear the stripes don't do anything in response, you go out there and you do that. So that fucking moron on Twitter, Jeff Fayette, can go run around and talk about, you're not doing anything because why'd you sign Ryan Reeves? His expected goals, shut up. Shut up. I don't want to hear the expected goals and expected bullshit anymore. Because if it was up to expected shit, the Leafs would win the expected Stanley Cup every single year. You'd basically construct an NHL roster and go on your NHL 23 app, and you'd go on a video game and sit down and build a Be a GM mode in the summer, and whoever has the best projected opportunity to win the Stanley Cup is the team that's going to win the Stanley Cup, and they just hand it out to you right then and there, and then that's who wins the Stanley Cup. There's a human element to it every single time. There's a human element to the game of hockey, to every single sport. There are things that are more important than just the analytics. The analytics are a great tool. They are not the be-all, end-all of everything. So when I'm looking at some of these guys, like Justin Hall, everyone ran him out of town, but you know who was in love with him? The analytics guys. But people in Toronto ran him out of town and were upset with him because he was the guy who was in the position being put into the wrong position that just exploited everything that was wrong with him, which made us hate him. We had a right to hate him because he was in the spot that he should never have been in, and they would never take him out of that spot. But the analytics say, oh, he's got the long stick and penalty kill. Okay, well, that's fine. He's being used completely wrong in every single way. There are so many other key pieces to all this stuff, and Tree Living is so adamant about having those pieces here in Toronto and building those pieces up to build character and life and energy and attitude into this team. The problem with this team is that it's the top guys who just don't emulate it for the most part. And the thing that's like frustrating to me right now, Matthews obviously shows that when he scores the goal there. He shows some emotion. You see him get fired up about stuff. Nylander seems to be a guy who shows some emotion. But you've also got a guy behind the bench right now who is struggling every single night to do anything competent. Like, he's overthinking every single decision. He's overthinking every single move, every single line matchup. He cannot get to a point right now to do anything consistently. It is all over the map. It is incredibly frustrating to watch. Tyler Bertuzzi ends up on the fourth line here tonight. Keefe says on demoting Bertuzzi to the fourth line, he just needs to simplify his game. Today he had a very simple plan and he failed to execute that. So other guys had to take his place. Bertuzzi has gone from the first line to the second line to the third line to the second line to the first line to the fourth line. Like, he's playing on the second power play. He's playing in... How the hell is the guy supposed to know what his fucking role is? The coach doesn't even know what his role is. And then he's expecting Tyler Bertuzzi to know what his role is? I don't think there's any single guy in this organization right now other than like Austin Matthews, William Nylander, Joseph Woll, and Ilya Samsonov who truly know what their role is. Maybe the four, and that's it. The four guys know that every single night they got to go out there and they got to try to score goals, and that's their role. Samsonov and Woll, they got to save pucks. That's their role. Outside of that, I don't know if anybody has any type of clear messaging from this guy of what their role is, what they're supposed to do. I listened to Overdrive. I heard Jeff O'Neill talking about where he was hearing responses about why Keefe was changing the lineup all the time, and he kind of had the point of, oh, well, what is he supposed to do if he's watching this go on and can't figure things out because things aren't working? What else is he supposed to do? My only pushback on this is he watches it for a period and says, this doesn't work, change. Watches it for a period, this doesn't work, change. I get that, but he runs this in practice for a couple hours one day, goes into a game, tries it out for 20 minutes, which ultimately is not 20 minutes because those guys are only playing for 5 to 8 minutes of that period. And then at the end of it, you're sitting there saying, oh, this didn't work. Change. This was a Boston team here tonight that did not have McAvoy, Grzelcyk, Forbert. They were struggling mightily in terms of their actual top defense. The Leafs had an opportunity here to come out and take advantage of that, and they failed to do so. You go down 2-0 off of some of your own pathetic defensive play. Klingberg struggling mightily defensively right now. His offensive game doesn't really seem to be there. I don't know if it's a lack of confidence or maybe he actually just doesn't have that in his game anymore. But TJ Brody struggling still. I don't think that Tree Living is the happiest guy in the world to have that guy sitting here on his roster especially at the AAV that he's coming in at. And I see 6 1/3, and I'm not gonna like pick a fight with it, but it's more just sitting here saying yes, they're as flawed as every team, and things need to fall into place at the right time, even if you're the best team anyway. Okay, I get that. This is becoming more than just the flaws, though. This is a conversation outside of the flaws of the team, or the way that the team is built. This is a fundamental flaw in the mental and emotional construct of this team. It is lack of fight, lack of pushback. I get that there is moments in time with teams where you're going to see dip off. Watch the Colorado Avalanche play. Watch the Colorado Avalanche play every single night. Tell me how that is in any way similar or the same to this Leafs team. And the intensity that they bring every single night. And you know what, 6 1/3? No, this isn't too negative. This is the reality, because we're going to sit here, we're going to pull our horns watching the Leafs put up a bunch of points all season long. They're going to get into the playoffs. They're going to lose in the first or the second round again. And at the end of the season, we're going to say, oh, what happened? How did that happen? Well, you know what? We could have seen it from game 1 of the season when they came out and let in 5 goals against the Montreal Canadiens. Let's just stop being blind or pretending like these issues don't exist. Not great defensively. Puts their goalies in a bad spot. And you have some character issues up front. One of which I strongly believe is in number 16 there. You just see some of these things coming out all the time. That play on Liljegren was insanely frustrating to see no one push back there. You know what? Who cares? Liljegren is going to be out for a long period of time. Take the guy's teeth out. Like, who cares? That guy is a scumbag, rat piece of shit. Like, just a terrible, terrible scumbag. And no one does anything. The analytics community is sitting there behind their keyboards clacking away here tonight about how happy they are, about how there was no response about that. Every single person who comes into the chats, comes and comments on the video, the Leafs need to get mean, tough, blah, 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 should be freaking out that there was no response to that kind of stuff here tonight. There's just so many issues. So many issues with this. 6 1/3, I get it. There's mistakes in every game. I watched them too. I'm not even just talking about the mistakes. I'm talking about the fact that these are the same mistakes every single year. The defense still fucking sucks. They're not good in terms of their actual defensive core. Klingberg, terrible defensively. McCabe's going to be out for a bit here. Brody has seriously fallen off. Liljegren, he wasn't playing that great to start this season. Now he's injured. Now he's going to be out for an extended period of time. Like, there are these problems. Number 16 still has barely shown up this year. He scores a goal here tonight, but he's barely shown up outside of that. I don't even know if that was his goal, to be honest. I'm pretty sure that one should have been Matthew's goal. Like, this is frustrating. Why do we just have to go through this whole season, year after year after year as fans, and sit here and say, like, why can't we just be happy about this team? Like, are you happy with not seeing Stanley Cups? Are you happy with only seeing a second round once here? Like, is that the standard here in Toronto now? Is that the standard that's set? Is win a round and we're good? We're okay? You got to pass? Because you cannot genuinely sit here and look at this team, look at the way that they're playing, and tell me that this is a team or this is a style of hockey that can actually go on to have any type of major success. Cannot see that being the case. Cannot see this brand of hockey right now having any type of success. I'm getting trades sent to me by our boy Luke right now in the chat. I will. I don't know if he wants me to look at these right now, but I can. I put out a video earlier today. If you haven't watched it, go out and watch it after. I think that a guy like Zadorov is needed here. I think that he's a guy who would make a big difference. Everyone loved Lyubushkin. Imagine Lyubushkin, but like better at actually playing defensively. 6 1/3, I am, and I still have optimism about Klingberg and his level of play or where he could be at. But like, let's be real. Let's be honest about everything. He's not being at like his level of defensive play, not there. His level of offensive play has not been what it needs to be to compensate for the lack of defense in his game. That's the issue right now. So I get it, and I'm still optimistic that things could turn around and maybe with some more comfort. But again, it's like, do I trust Sheldon Keefe to deploy this in the right way to give him that confidence? These are concerns. And I think these are valid concerns. If you agree, again, I'm just going to throw this out there. If you do agree, please make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe here to the channel if you are new. I do appreciate everyone who waited here tonight. I'm not going to chintz out and go a shorter episode on this one. I will continue to go on, read everything in the chat, respond to you guys. If you do want to call into the show, please send me a message, Discord, Twitter, whatever is easiest for you. I will try to send across a link so people can call in. It's on Zoom. You don't have to have face shown, nothing like that. But, yeah, I do want to hear from everybody, so let me know. Send a message. 6 1/3, nice. I think he could pick it up. Look, okay, here, like, this isn't even a counter or an argument to 6 1/3 in any type of way, because I actually strongly agree with Nyes here. What are we doing with Sheldon Keefe here? What like, Yarncroke has to stay on the first line. Has to stay on the first line. Why are we so adamant about having this guy stay in the first line? Because Marner has not been good enough right now. Matthews, I mean, yes, he scores here tonight. I do still think he scored 2. But outside of that, he scored 2 goals basically since the first 2 games of the season. He's at 8 now through 10. That's an incredible stat. Let's also remember 6 of those came in the first 2. I'm not diminishing his play at all, because after that, I still think Matthews had played really well, but just the goals weren't there. And I think part of that is he's basically playing in a situation where he's shorthanded every time he's on the ice, because 16's being half the player that he's being. He's playing at like a $2-3 million player. And then on the other side, he's playing with a carousel of players who now Sheldon Keefe has decided as being Calle Yarncroke. I like Calle Yarncroke, but reality is he's not a top 6 guy. He's a bottom 6, probably a third line guy. You're force feeding him into the top. You know who is a top 6 guy and who deserves to be in the top 6? A guy who goes in the corner, a guy who wins battles, and a guy who actually could make an impact there, especially in bigger minutes, and we've seen him make an impact last season and in the playoffs, is Matthew Nyes. Really impressed with his board play, especially again here tonight. Board play, net front, winning battles, staying in front of everybody. T-Dot even bringing up here. Nyes played on every line tonight. Like, you're seeing him rotate through everywhere. Put him on the top. Leave him there. Like, just leave him there. That's a top 6 line. If your bottom 6 is not good enough without Nyes being in the bottom 6, let me tell you this. You got other fucking problems. Stop trying to use Matthew Nyes to solve it, because you're diminishing what could be on the first line. And that first line is struggling right now. Normally you use Marner to be the guy to go and fix everybody else. Marner's the guy that's struggling. So put someone else in there. Jumpstart them with a young kid who's strong, wins battles, isn't afraid of anything, and has been pretty damn good to start his NHL career. Give him that opportunity. Give him the minutes. Give him the leash. That's where we need to see. And then if you've got problems in your bottom six, stop trying to compensate by bringing other guys down into those spots. Find some other player to go and fit into that role. Find some other player, whether it's via the trade market, like you guys are saying here in the chat, Dylan Dubé, like you got to go out and get that guy. Whether you're trying to go out and get a Lindholm and you're going to get a guy who's actually a top six player and you're going to feed him into the bottom six. Like if that's the solution, that's the solution. Getting sick and tired of watching this rotation, jamming blender of guys moving up, moving down. Getting tired of it. It's starting to just make no sense. And every single night you're watching the same thing. You hear so often about how these players are creatures of habit and need some type of chemistry. Like NHL line chemistry is important. They don't get any opportunity to do so. Bertuzzi, Domi, these guys don't even have definitive roles. Klingberg, took him 6 games into the season to be taken off of power play 1. Like, I get that at some point you have to say, hey, this doesn't work. But you also have to have some backbone and say, we're going to allow this to grow. We're going to allow this to continue to build and have some chemistry and give it an opportunity. Just pull the plug. It's frustrating. Like 6 1/3, I get that it's 10 games in, but what is different about this than what we saw for 82 games last year and into the playoffs? That's the point. This is the point. There's no difference. So that's why I feel justified in coming on here to be frustrated on this. Yeah, and Joe bringing up Nyes on demoting Bertuzzi to the 4th line. He just needs to simplify his game today. He had a very simple plan. He failed to execute that, so other guys had to take his place. Again, I stand by the fact that I think it's hard to follow some type of game plan when it feels like there is none. Like you're sitting here watching this and Keefe's like, oh, you didn't follow the game plan. Well, it's like, dude, what was the game plan? Like every other team that you see come into Toronto, play against Toronto, you sit there and you watch and you're like, you know what? They came in here tonight. Their game plan was to check Toronto hard, play down low, play below the net, force Toronto to stay in their own zone for extended periods of time, get low shots, crash the net, get rebounds. When Toronto comes across into the neutral zone, their game plan was to do this. I feel like I've never in my life, well, in my life's an exaggeration. I feel like I've never in the last 7 years looked at this team, looked at this group of players, this coaching staff, and said, this was the definitive game plan tonight. Actually, you know what? Probably the last time that I feel like I've seen that was Babcock. Maybe we didn't like the game plan, but we knew there was one. So maybe it's just a secret game plan and we all don't know about it and we'll find out at some point. But like, this is just turning into a gong show of watching and being like, what is there to this? It's... I don't know. That Canadian white trash guy, Bertuzzi can't play ice soccer, so it's making him look bad. Like, this is the frustrating thing, too, right? To sit here and people can shit on it from the outside and say, well, oh, maybe he just overpaid on Bertuzzi and he's not that good of a player. Bullshit. Bertuzzi put up a ton of points in Detroit, playing with Dylan Larkin. And as I've mentioned, this is no disrespect to Dylan Larkin, type of player he is. Very good player. He's not as good as the guys here in Toronto that he's getting to play with right now. Played really well there. Goes to Boston. Incredible player in Boston. Actually exceptional. They were pissed off when he left. They were pissed off when he lost them. When he left them. Maybe it's just some shitty game plan and organizational structure in regards to like how things are implemented on the ice in Toronto that causes these guys to have a tough time. We all looked at McCabe at his time in Chicago and said, great defensive player. Came here. It's not been bad, but it just hasn't been great. just interesting stuff all around in terms of the way that this team is coached, put together. Continuing to read the chat. Joe Hill, Chimpanzee could have that core four and have a winning season. Probably, like, this is the argument that I've made, is that when you have that much talent on the ice at all points in time, you put them out there for that much of the night, you're going to get them to score goals and just be better than the other team, regardless of any type of structure. And then it's just like, are they going to have to outplay the coaching on a nightly basis? Feels like that could be the case. Denver, Charlotte, Ball, why are Bruins always this good, Zach? They've got a great organizational structure. They have an identity as a team. Feels like the Leafs just don't have that. They've always tried to find one. They've always tried to look for one and implement it midway through the season, specifically at the trade deadline. Feel like True Living came here and tried to implement it ahead of the season. And it feels like guys like Marner maybe don't fit into that mold. Looks like Nylander's adapted. He's making changes. He's playing differently. He's showing different things. Like that out of him. Matthews, you see fire in him. We've seen him develop. I don't think JT has ever really been that guy to like exemplify that type of play that True Living's looking for. I think he can fit into it and kind of just quietly go alongside of it. But I think that there was other people here that were brought in by Kyle Dubas who just don't really exemplify that. I think a good point by Arnav here is the game plan is, hey, new guys, go out there and support your four leaders. Don't do what you're good at anymore. I feel like that's like maybe not 100% true, but I feel like that's pretty accurate. That's why I've come here and people are like, oh, it's 10 games in. I get that. I get that it's 10 games in. It's still frustrating to watch regardless because it feels like it's just watching the same thing over and over and over again, and you don't want to let this get too far before it gets to the point where it just gets out of control. And you're watching a runaway train go off a cliff, sitting here saying, how did we get to this point? That's why I'm bringing this up now. It's because we're seeing it get to that point. I don't think that things get better here unless changes are made. Denver asking, Zach, were you pissed about Marchand injured our player without fight back? Yes, 100%. That is an immediate jump the guy and punch his teeth in. I don't care that it's Brad Marchand. I don't care what the situation is. That was stick through the legs, 2 feet away from the boards, can opener. The guy goes in feet first. You fucking respond there. You go after the guy. Like, there is no other team that you could turn on that is a legitimate cup contender that is going to react the way that they did here tonight. The only reason that Reeves can't get out there to do anything is because Keefe's not going to put him on the ice. So he's going to get a 10-game suspension because he's being held off. Someone else on the ice needs to jump in and say, do something. This is like... insight. Apparently nobody saw what happened. I mean, this is just like, that's just insane reasoning, you know? To sit there in the press conference and say, well, I didn't see what happened or whatever. Okay, fine. You didn't see what happened in the moment. Go get him after. And like, yeah, and I'm seeing in the chat here, Stella C, they just don't stick up for each other and get angry. Denver saying if that happened to Vegas, they'd all jump that person. And Bates 88 bringing up good point. Or Tampa. There is a play that sticks out in my mind Two, actually. One. Last year, Sergachev, regardless of what you think of him, he's riding out a guy towards Vasilevsky as the guy's driving the net. The guy tries to avoid Vasilevsky, doesn't, clips him. Within the span of 3 seconds, 4 of the 5 Tampa players on the ice had their gloves off and jumped the guy. Whether you agree with that or not, that is the team mob mentality that the Tampa Bay Lightning have had. That is the reason that team is able to go on and have success and go deep and make runs in the Stanley Cup playoffs. This Leafs team had 0 guys. 0 guys go after him right there. They also had 0 guys go after him later in the game. The Vegas Golden Knights, preseason game. Mark Stone gets hit in the corner. He thinks it's hard, late, whatever it is. As soon as he gets hit, the other 4 guys on the ice for the Vegas jump in there, go after the guy. That's the team that won the Stanley Cup last year. Guys, like, when I'm sitting here talking about this, I'm not talking about guys who can go out there and be the heavyweight fighter, champion of the world, carrying around the belt. This is not what I'm talking about or what I'm looking for out of this team or these players. What I'm talking about here when it comes down to this team and the makeup of this team is it seems like they don't give a shit about each other. That's the more frustrating thing. If I'm on this team, I'm out there on the ice, and my goalie gets bumped into by a guy, or my teammate gets tripped and hurt in the corner by a known scumbag in the league, I'm not sitting there going, ooh, hope he's okay. Like, you're jumping that guy because you care about the guy. It's not even as much as sending a message. That's what some of these idiots on Twitter, like Jeffy V, don't completely understand. It's not just about sending messages. It's actually about giving a shit about the guys on your team. Because now this kind of just sends messages to everyone else out there that nobody else is going to do anything. Nobody else really cares. Crosby, preseason, against the Buffalo Sabres. Guy takes a run at Chris Letang. Crosby fights him. Like, why do we have to watch McKinnon, Crosby, McDavid show emotion, and yet we can't get anything out of these guys? Maybe that's why when you get to the playoffs every year, it is a complete and utter embarrassment to watch them just crumble away like that. I don't get it. I don't get it. 6 1/3. Zach, what do you like about this team so far? I like there's a different power play zone entry. The power play zone entry has felt a lot more clean, a lot more effective, and a lot less stupid, truthfully. Last year, what we watched over and over and over again, and I guess a couple years leading up to it as well, was like the double drop back, where it was the double shotgun that led to 4 Leafs players standing still across the blue line, one guy trying to skate in with the puck. The power play now, most often of what I've seen, has involved, yes, a drop back, but it's not the massive like 35, 40-foot slingshot. It's 15, 20 feet behind, and then as soon as that happens, it's a guy going across on the other side of the ice, a guy coming in and then passing it across before they enter the blue line and creating space, going side to side to make the other team move, and then you have 2 guys going into the zone, and then everyone else comes in and follows in. I've liked that zone entry more. I've also liked the power play setup a little bit more. I think it's been a little bit more creative. There's been some more movement. Frustrations with that power play, though, do come. I cannot sit here and just go, oh, positives with the power play. There are some other frustrating things. The power play setup they still try to look for the perfect pass. Every now and then, you kind of just want to see them shoot the puck a little bit more. Like, it's the most old man sitting in the stands yelling shoot thing in the world, but when you've got guys on this team like Matthews, Nylander, Tavares, Marner, Riley, or Klingberg, whoever's up there on the power play, sometimes you just got to shoot, man. Like, you're looking for the perfect backdoor pass. I appreciate that. I appreciate the skill that it takes for these guys to do that. They do convert at a pretty high rate. It's more just for me about the fact that I think that they could even be even better if, like, instead of 2 times in a row you're looking for the perfect pass, one of those times you decide you're going to shoot the puck, crash the net, go get rebounds, tip the puck, whatever it is. I think some of those things can be cleaned up, but I think that the power play has been a little bit better. That's kind of what I've liked there. I really like Joseph Woll. I think that Joseph Woll has really stepped up. I think he's going to be the starter. I think he's earned the net. I don't think that this was a bad game for Samsonov here tonight necessarily. I don't think that this was a what the hell were you doing, Samsonov, or you let the team down. I actually think that he was in a position here that held the Leafs in it for a long period of time. I think he played a pretty good game. But I still think that Joseph Woll deserves a net. That game the other night was not on Joseph Woll at all. Couple tipped goals past him. Also apologize for not doing the game the other night. Fought through the flu. Finally got over it here today, so able to do this stream. Been on camera basically all day here today. So yeah, while you're here, like the stream, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, all that good stuff. Do appreciate all the support here. 35 likes, or 35 viewers, 12 likes. Get that up. Thank you all for waiting as well. I do appreciate that. I was finishing up with my other job before I could get over here. 6 1/3, bringing up that 5-pass sequence that Willie got stoned on was awesome. Yeah, it was. There was the one that Tavares got stoned on as well in the back door. These were awesome plays. I do agree with that. I'm more just talking about the fact that, like, in general, I do think that there is kind of just like a, hey, you're at the point, you've got some traffic, shoot the puck. Instead, they kind of try to go pass, and then you waste 45 seconds, the puck gets sent down the other end. You got to come back in, set up. Not every time do they enter that clean. Then once they do get in, not the cleanest setup, not the cleanest moving around. Now you've gone through an entire 2-minute power play. You've got one shot on goal. Those are the frustrating things for me when I'm looking, going, you have so much talent out on the ice. Sometimes with these guys who are as good as shooters, shoot the puck. That Canadian white trash guy, Zach, why don't you mention why the Leafs do that low percentage power play 100% of the time? You don't shoot from center blue line on the power play. Pucks injure. Why don't you mention why the Leafs do that low percentage power play 100% of the time? He's talking about, I don't know. I think I'm gonna guess what he's talking about here, in regards to, like, shooting from the blue line. Why they don't just do that? I mean, you shouldn't be doing that 100% of the time. I do agree with them passing the puck around, making moves, and trying to get nice plays going, especially on the power play. You have an extra man, you have the time, you have the opportunity to set up. Like, that's what it is for. It's more just, to me, is like, it feels like there's times they never shoot from the point, or they never just take the shot from the side of the net. Like, watch Pastrnak, watch Colorado. These guys will jam pucks into the center of the ice with opportunities for guys to get sticks on it or rebounds or whatever it is, because they also have backside support crashing in to get those, and then they have defensemen who are aware enough to go over and keep pucks in if things miss or get shot out. Like, they have all this pressure and support in there, and it just feels like the Leafs lack that. That's my frustration with where the power play is, and it's like, you got opportunities to shoot. You've also got one of the best finishers in the game in John Tavares standing in front of the net. Utilize that. Utilize his stick. Utilize his ability to tip the puck. He's there to help. He's there for a reason. Use it. That's the frustrating thing. Get to a couple other things in the chat. Canadian white trash guy power play is 5 versus 4 to open the defense. To get a shot at the net, the Leafs never do it. Well, yeah. And I mean, some of it is just like, some of it with this and what I'm talking about with the passing, this is going to sound somewhat contradictory, but I hope that I can kind of explain it well enough to make sense here. I complain about the puck movement, and I say, like, oh, they pass too much. Here's what I'll say. If they pass the puck quicker or with more purpose, I think it's going to be fine. And I think that what that Canadian white trash guy is saying actually becomes easier to do and easier to accomplish. Because the faster you can move the puck, the harder you make it for the opposing team to keep up, the quicker that lanes can open up for somebody, the more opportunities you can have to do what I'm saying and shoot the puck. Or to take advantage of open lanes and drive the net and do that kind of stuff. Or take an advantage of a lane and pull a guy to you and then dish the puck off backdoor. Those things start to open up when you do those things and you move the puck quicker. This Leafs team, it feels like they get the pass, hold, pass. Get the pass, hold, pass. And there's like too much waiting, too much pause in their game that allows the other team to stay set the entire time. It's frustrating. Seeing a lot of stuff about this team doesn't like each other. Yeah, like that's kind of what I'm saying. And then Canadian white trash guy, don't fight to be a clown, fight to dominate and win the cup. Team toughness is important. And as much as the analytics crowd wants to run around and pat themselves on the back every time some player gets injured and they say, look at that, somebody got injured and the tough guy on the team didn't deter anybody from doing anything. It's like, well, okay. Look at the teams who win the Stanley Cup. Do they have big, mean, physical players who bully other players, who will step up and fight? Yes, they do. Vegas, they had those guys. Washington, St. Louis, they had those guys. Pittsburgh had those guys. These teams are built with those players. St. Louis had those guys. They're built with character players who stand up and have a set of balls. It feels like this Leafs team lacks that. A couple of things we got to get to before we end the show. Obviously, I'll continue reading the chat, but I do want to go through some of this stuff so that we don't get way too late. Let's get into our play of the game. Play of the game, send it in the chat. I want to read everyone else's out there. We'll see what everyone else has to say. For me, play of the game is pretty simple. Austin Matthews, second goal of the game for the Toronto Maple Leafs here tonight. Incredible shot to be able to do that while skating backwards. One-timer. He not only does that skating backwards, but he is on the short side post and fires it and scores on what felt like the far side post. Like the ability to get that shot off in the position that he was in as quickly as he did, with the accuracy that he did and the power that he did, was insane. Like, that was just a ridiculous goal by Matthews to be able to score that. Incredible goal there. Much like that is by far and away my favorite play of the game. I'm going to do something I rarely ever do. I'm going to give an honorable mention to Swayman for 2. The save on Nylander and the save on Tavares. If not for those, we could have been sitting here having a different conversation about this game. I think maybe the level of play and the intensity, the lack of intensity, would probably have still come up here in this conversation, but there would have been a win attached to this one. Those were insane saves by Swayman. But that being said, you're going to face incredible goaltenders, and I don't want to come to the conversation after and be like, they got goalied. You don't get goalied 82 times or whatever it is that we're going to sit here and have the conversation of at the end of the season. You get goalied once or twice throughout the season. It happens. But, God, you got to find ways to beat those guys. Because if you're going to be the best team in the world, you got to find ways to beat those goaltenders. Yeah. Bates 88. The Stars never want to get their nose dirty by taking the hit or going to the net hard. They always go to the outside to look for the extra pass. Brackets Marner. Like, okay, fair. Like, the thing is, I would disagree a little bit. I think Nylander has really added that to his game. He does that, so I would disagree on that. I think Matthews has added a lot of these power forward tendencies to his game. JT, okay, I could see that because I think for JT, he just doesn't have the boots to kind of go around guys. He finds other ways to do it, but I don't really think he's like afraid necessarily. It would come down to one guy kind of fitting in that bill for me, but it's what it is. Denver Charlotte, Zach, do you think the penalty killing is good? No, I don't. I don't think it's terrible. I think it'll come, but I don't know. Like, I don't really have too many comments on the penalty kill right now. I don't know if it's a lack of urgency right now, or maybe if it's just like, oh, the goaltending's been struggling or something. Like, maybe that's contributing to it. I don't really know what the answers are. I'm going to continue to watch this penalty kill over the next little while. They went from having one of the best penalty kills in the entire league to just like not being able to get it done. Maybe it's because of a drop off from Brody. Maybe it's because of a drop off or the lack of what we thought would be there in McCabe, obviously injured right now. Maybe into Liljegren in the wrong spot. Obviously, he's injured now too, so you're going to kind of rely here on the likes of Brody, Riley, and Gio to get this penalty killing done. I don't know what's going on there, but for me right now, not good enough, and I think he needs to get a lot better. Also, for everyone else's play of the game, I'm seeing a lot of the Matthews goal. So, looks like that was pretty consensus there. All right. That Canadian white trash guy, Nylander's really brought up positional hockey plays, and it is paying off. Keep Keefe from making him play with Matthews and Marner. He is better with forecheckers to get him the puck. I agree. I don't want to see him with Matthews up there. I think that leaving him on that second line is perfect. I think him and JT play well together. Nylander now on a 10-game point streak. Like, this guy is on an absolute heater to start this season. Contract year. On pace for over point per game. Like, he's been absolutely on fire. No complaints about him there. I think JT fits his game pretty well. And I think that this is like, when you get Willie at his best, it makes JT better, which makes Willie better. And then it's just kind of cyclical. It goes back and forth with these guys. Marner, guy needs to be better to help Matthews out here, because I think Matthews has been playing pretty well. But he seems like he's playing shorthanded because he's got Marner not playing up to standards. And then he's got Calle Yarncroke on the other side, who is just not a driver. He's a guy who can benefit on that line, but he needs the other guys going. The other guys right now are not going. Denver, Zach, you're young. Why are you yawning? Yawning because I've been had the flu or something for 3 days that I fought through, and then work all day still through that, and was on camera from 9 a.m. or whatever it was until now. So that's why. Yeah. All right. Let's get to grades of the game.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
All right, grades of the game here. Send your grades in the chat. Want to see those as well while you're here. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications. Does help support the show. Do appreciate it. Continue to build it back to where we had it before. All right, grades of the game. I want to see everybody's. I want to know what everyone else in the chat has. I'm going to go with B+. You are on the road. You are. I don't even know. Look. You are on the road. You are against Boston here. Obviously, going to be a tough match for you. But B+ is too high. I'll go with B. Willie gets 7 shots on goal. Gets his 10-game point streak. He was on fire. I think JT looked pretty good. It's nice for Marner to get the goal. I still think it was Matthews' goal. I don't know if I'm alone on that. Go watch the tape. Watch the highlight again. I think it was Matthews' goal. Feels like that one's yet to be determined. I felt like we were missing effort. I think that this is a game that this Leafs team could have easily won had they just shown up a little bit more or shown up earlier. Samsonov played fine. This game's not on him. And I think Keefe's a moron. I think he's deploying these lines wrong. I think he's shuffling them around too much. He's shuffling them around in the wrong way. Not happy with the coaching decisions, the way things are going. Don't like that at all. Power play, fine. Penalty kill, not that great. I mean, I could even go below a B here, like B- maybe. That's my final grade. That's what I'm settling on. That's where I'm at. I see C+, an A, B-, C, C+, like a bunch of different grades. Pretty wide variety here in the chat. D-. There you go. Well, yeah, Fazilla moves. It was an okay game. That's why I'll go with B-. I think that's an okay game. It's fine. I do appreciate everyone who waited here for the stream to start tonight. I apologize for it taking so long. Hopefully this won't happen again. Had to work here tonight. Was no way to get around that one. And then there was obviously an unfortunate injury at the end of the NFL game. If anybody had seen that, guy ends up getting carted off with like 2 minutes left. So that made a even longer delay. So apologies there. But to everyone who stuck around, I do appreciate you. If you haven't already, like the stream, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. Then, after you're done this, go over and watch the video that I was talking about, Nikita Zadorov. I want to hear everyone's thoughts on that. I'm not going to give away what's going on there, but I do have some thoughts with Calgary, some trade opportunities with players that I think could come over to this Leafs team and help them out. So go check that out. Make sure to watch that after this. Like, comment, give me your thoughts over there. And if you are new to this channel or you're watching it after as well, make sure to subscribe here. I do appreciate all the support, but Leafs fans, thank you guys so much for tuning in here. The Leafs do lose this one in a shootout, 3-2, Game 10 of the regular season to the Boston Bruins. Appreciate all the support as always. Leafs fans, thank you so much for tuning in.